Pat Harrigan. Congressman, welcome back to the show. More nonsense from Hamas. That's the headline.
Yeah, I don't think that's really a surprise to anybody, right? And I think, as J.D. Vance said, the response from the Western media does seem to be looking for this peace deal to implode. And I think that's the wrong perspective. And from my perspective, I actually think it's gone better than even I thought it would go. Look, these people have hated each other for a long time. They hate each other's presence. They hate the thought of each other. And so this is not going to be an easy road. But I do think that with President Trump sending JD out there and his wife for the next 4 days to just kind of say both sides, this is the way it's going to be, or the action is going to be decisive after this, and you're not going to recover from it, I think is exactly the way to go in order to actually achieve a lasting peace.
Well, that was my next question, Congressman, how important this visit is by the Vice President and how he can help see this deal to completion.
Look, I think part of what is so special about J.D. Vance is he represents the next generation, right? And so much of somebody's, regardless of whether it's Israel or Palestine's, kind of determining factors on what they're going to do, it ultimately yields down to what do we want for the next generation? And so I think as you have the Vice President of the United States certainly making a concerted effort to keep both sides on this peace deal, you also have the next generation making the exact same plea. And I think that ultimately kind of tugs on everybody's heartstrings over there on both sides and says, you know, maybe we can do better moving forward than we have done in the past.
Well, he has displayed an optimistic tone, the Vice President, about the future of the ceasefire. And I want to share a clip from this morning's news conference.
There are going to be hills and valleys. There are going to be moments where it looks like things aren't going particularly well. But given that, and given the history of conflict, I think that everybody should be proud of where we are today.
Your thoughts on his comments and the prospects of a long-standing peace between two sides who clearly hate each other?
Yeah, look, kind of goes back to what I said earlier. I actually think that this peace deal has turned out better than I originally thought that it would go. I think we're in a better spot today than I thought we would have been a week ago. And so I think we just need to continue making progress towards this. That doesn't have an infinite leash, right? At the end of the day, Hamas has choices that they need to make. Killing 2 Israeli service members over the weekend is absolutely not acceptable. They were standing behind the yellow line. This type of violence just can't continue if there's going to be a durable and a lasting peace. But Israel responded appropriately. I mean, they killed a lot of people over the weekend in response to that, then went right back into the ceasefire after both sides got involved. And so, look, I think President Trump and J.D. Vance are doing exactly what they should be doing to promote peace in the Middle East. If that holds, time will tell.
Well, there was disappointing news regarding another international conflict with plans for a Budapest summit between President Trump and his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, now on hold. The summit sounded promising, but it seems like now, again, there's no end in sight for that war. Congressman?
I don't think there is any end in sight for the Ukrainian conflict. And look, I've been telling a lot of people for a long time, Putin doesn't want to end this war. And that's hugely problematic for the way that we are trying to counter it. But look, President Putin has had many, many off-ramps to take. President Trump has been incredibly patient, incredibly kind with that man. And he's just absolutely recalcitrant. He's stringing the United States along. And I think, look, we've just got to understand they don't want to change. One of the things that we learned very, very early in our military experience, for those of us who have served, is the enemy gets a vote. And you can want peace no matter what. But if your enemy doesn't want it, ultimately they get the decision. They get to choose, and we've got to be responsive of that choice. And puts us in a very difficult position. There's no question about it, because what we're doing right now is sending hundreds of billions of dollars into a conflict with absolutely no plan. That doesn't make any sense. But as isolationist as some of us may want to be, Russia might not give us that choice.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective on that. I also want to ask you about the government shutdown, which is now in its 21st day. House Speaker Mike Johnson once again placing the blame for the impasse squarely on the shoulders of Democrats. Here's a clip from the Speaker.
Yesterday, there was an article from The Hill that laid bare that very fact. A Democrat senator was speaking anonymously and admitted, quote, People are going to get hammered if they vote for the House passed bill to reopen the government. The clean, nonpartisan CR, they're going to get hammered. Another insider said in that same story, quote, "We would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine." Okay? They mean it metaphorically, but in a political sense, that's exactly what they're concerned about.
What is that? Is it the far left fringe? I mean, what is going on here? I know we talk about it every day, but it's not over yet. They won't vote yay. What's it going to take?
No, look, this is the American government hostage crisis right now at the hands of Democrats. I mean, look, we voted for a clean continuing resolution. This is something that House Republicans voted for 12 times underneath President Biden when the Democrats were in charge. And that same respect is not being reciprocated back to Republicans. It's really easy. But when you have the American government, the American people getting held hostage for $1.5 trillion worth of Democratic demands, $200 billion of which are for illegal immigrant health care, that is genuinely taking the American people hostage over this. And you cannot negotiate with hostage takers. I think that's the very clear lesson here. Republicans are not going to budge on this. This is not what our constituency wants. This is not what the majority of Americans want. Democrats simply have to stop making political decisions, which the speaker alluded to, and they've got to start doing the right thing for the American people by opening the government back up, because government shutdowns do real injury to real people. That's exactly what's happening right now across the country, and it's unacceptable and totally avoidable.
Congressman Pat Harrigan, thanks again for your time today, sir. Always good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too, Rick. Thanks for having me on.